Good morning, class. Today's lesson is the ultimate guide for creating safe passwords. The ultimate guide for creating strong passwords. Hopefully you got a chance to check out the virtual activity found here on my laptop. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a moment. You're going to look over the Google slide, but don't fear. I am actually going to present this Google slide lesson in this video. But you can view the Google slide on your own by clicking on this link if you like, or just tune into this video and listen to me go through and explain each one of the slides. So what you're going to do is later on you are going to share this lesson with any of your family members who may not be so savvy as yourselves. So make sure to change your own passwords if you feel that they are not as secure as you actually think they are. So for this assignment, what you're going to do is on the Google document found in Google Classroom, you're going to reflect on the following questions. Did this presentation make you second guess your password making practices? And reflect on the importance of having secure passwords. What do you protect behind a password? Have any of your accounts been hacked and been required to change your password? Because let's face it, sometimes you'll get that email saying that there's been a breach in an account. So you're going to want to make sure that you make these changes. And if you already knew that passwords need to be difficult to figure out, how did you learn about it? So these are some of the things that I want you to reflect on in the assignment on Google Classroom. So let's take a look at the actual lesson on the ultimate guide for creating strong passwords. The ultimate guide for creating strong passwords. So here is a list of the top 20 passwords of all time. And if you look at these passwords, these are definitely not passwords that you should be using. Okay, clearly numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, definitely a no-no. The word password itself, even if you make the uppercase P for the word password, do not use it. Other things here, many times they require you to have up to 8 characters for a password. So the numbers 1 through 8 is definitely a no-no. And then here's another one. One of my favorites to see is QWERTY. If you look at the first 6 letters of your keyboard, they actually spell out QWERTY, and that's what the keyboard arrangement or keyboard configuration is on a laptop or a desktop keyboard. In a recent survey conducted by Zone Alarm, 79% of consumers were found to use risky password construction practices, such as using personal information and common words. Definitely a no-no. So let's look at a couple of statistics here. 4%, the estimated percentage of consumers who use some variation of the word password. Believe it or not, just because you might use the word password and throw the number 1 at the end of it, or maybe the year you were born, does not make it a safe password. 25% is the proportion of the top 20 most commonly used passwords that are first names. So 25% actually use first names. 16%, the overall percentage of consumers who create passwords using a person's first name. So can you imagine 16% of consumers are using their first name as their password? If anyone knows who you are by your name, they may try that out because they might think you're one of those 16%. So do not use your name for a password. How long are your passwords? Most common length of passwords created is 6 letters. Right? That's a lot of the passwords. They're 6 letters. Definitely you want to be using something a little bit larger than 6 letters or numbers. So 2 rules to live by. Rule number 1, password length. Stick with a password that are at least 8 characters in length. The more characters in a password, the better, as the time taken to crack a password by an attacker will be longer. 10 characters or longer are even better, but the bare minimum is 8 characters. So those characters can either be letters, upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols, as we're going to see in a moment. Rule number 2 is the password complexity. Sorry, I cannot read today. So the password complexity, and it should contain at least 1 character from each of these 4 groups. So at least 4 characters in your password should be one of the following. So what you want to be using is lowercase alphabet letters, uppercase letters, numbers, and special characters like the asterisk or a dash or an equal sign or an addition sign or a percent sign or a dollar sign or a number sign or an at sign. Just, it doesn't really matter. Just use some kind of special character that you will remember. So put those 2 rules together, we come up with what is referred to as the 8-4 rule. And that 8-4 rule, 8 characters minimum length, and the 4 to represent at least 1 lowercase, 1 uppercase, 1 number, and 1 special character. So you want to include all 4 of those complexities within those 8 characters that your password should be. Now, warn your parents, if your banking and any financial sensitive website passwords doesn't follow this 8-4 rule, I suggest that they change this up. As part of the lesson, I asked you to go home and share this lesson with a family member who may not be so tech savvy and who does maybe do some of their financial stuff online. So please share with them this lesson and suggest that they do change this 8-4 rule, because let's face it, there's a good possibility that their password is something related maybe to your birthday. So definitely a no-no. I know I've got a daughter and none of my passwords are related to her birth date whatsoever, or even her name, because I know better. So some guidelines for creating strong passwords, as we mentioned, follow the 8-4 rule. Use unique characters. Use a password manager. I'm going to talk a little bit about a password manager in a moment. And instead of using the word password, think about a passphrase. And that's what we're going to talk about in a moment. So unique characters should contain at least 5 unique characters. Try to use the uppercase, lowercase letters, symbols. Use a couple of symbols, not just 1 character, but try to use multiple symbols or multiple characters as well in that 8-4 rule. Use a password manager. Here I have an example of 1Password. There's an app on iOS and on Android that you can download to store your passwords. The only thing is, I think there's a subscription to some of these. So try to utilize the free aspects of some of these password managers. Another one, a good one, I think, is called LastPassword. So definitely something to use. There's nothing wrong with writing things down and keeping them somewhere safe. Writing it maybe in the notes of your device, but make sure that you have access to all that information. And don't put it down that this is the password of this and that. Maybe have the passwords on its own set of notes and a separate set of notes, maybe all the accounts, and then try to have them all mixed and matched so that this way, if someone was to come across your notes, they won't really necessarily know which one. Use a passphrase. If you don't want to use password management tools, use a passphrase to easily remember the passwords. You can use initials of a song or a phrase that you're very familiar with. So here's an example. Passwords are like socks. Change yours often. Right? So that passphrase can be converted to a strong password, like here. Passwords are like socks, comma. Change yours often, with an exclamation mark. You can put the quotations with it just to make it that much more challenging for someone who may try to hack any one of your accounts. Creating a strong password that is easy to remember. Whenever possible, use at least 14 characters or more. But again, the minimum that we said, minimum, 8 characters in length. Greater it is, the longer it is, the better it is. The greater the variety of characters in your password, the better. So if you've got symbols and you've got numbers all within, it makes it that much more challenging. Use the entire keyboard if possible, not just the characters you see or see most often. Right, the @ symbol, number symbol, the and symbol. Use other ones. Test your password with a password checker. I'm going to share a password checker in a moment on this in this Google slide. And it's okay to write your passwords down so that you remember them. Just keep them somewhere safe. A simple trick, take a sentence and turn it into a password, or should I say a passphrase. So here we have, this little piggy went to market, might turn into this little piggy, right? TLP, went. We use the whole word went, but all uppercase. We use the number 2 and market. Again, here, one thing we didn't use are special symbols. So we can always incorporate some special symbols to make it even more challenging. So how to create the perfect password. Again, understand there really is no perfect password. There are challenging passwords, but let's face it, if a hacker really wants to get in there, they will find a way. And a lot of times it's not necessarily with knowing your login information, but it could also be where they, let's say, hack into, let's say, a server where all this information, your password and your login information, is all stored. Okay, so let's say your Sony PlayStation got hacked into, not necessarily your account, but it could be maybe just Sony's server gets hacked, which means that everybody's login credentials could be jeopardized. Nintendo, their Switch, their Nintendo online accounts had been, there was a huge breach not too long ago. So definitely, if you got a Nintendo Switch account, definitely check that out. See if your account had been compromised during that data breach. So anyhow, let's create a strong password, and here's how we kind of develop it. So start with a sentence or two, about 10 words in total. Think about something meaningful to you. Here's an example. Long and complex passwords are safest. I keep mine secret. So there it is here in red. That's our phrase to keep in mind. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the first letter of every one of these words in these 2 sentences to make a 10-character password, or should I say passphrase. So right now we just have lowercase letters. Let's make it a little more challenging by incorporating some complexities. So some of these complexities is putting in uppercase letters. All of a sudden, notice here we've got uppercase letters in it as opposed to all lowercase letters. And again, the variation, right? Here's I guess a pattern that we can use. The first 3 letters uppercase, 1 lowercase, 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, 3 uppercase. So notice that pattern: 3, 1, 1, 1, 3, and then 1 for the last character. Again, whatever that complexity is going to be, that is up to you. So think about some of those complexities that you might want to incorporate. Add length by adding numbers. So all of a sudden, let's throw in a number. So all of a sudden, we went from a 10-character passphrase to a 12-character passphrase by throwing in a number right in the middle to separate the 2 sentences. So here we have the long and complex passwords are safe. 56, I keep mine secret. Okay, so all of a sudden now, look at how much more challenging. Again, this isn't easy to remember. Even if you saw someone typing this, it's going to be hard to remember, because we can, you peek over somebody's shoulder, you could see them typing an actual word, but if you see them typing a bunch of random letters that don't make any sense to you, it becomes very challenging for someone who might be trying to snoop in on what you are typing. So let's add some more complexity by adding punctuation or even symbols, right? We added a question mark here at the beginning. We added an exclamation mark at the end. Again, this makes it so much more challenging. So check if you've been hacked. Here's a great website. If you get a chance, please do go check into it. Once you get into it, let's actually click on it. Okay, so have I been pawned? So what you're going to do in here, you are going to type in an email address and then click on pawned, and it will tell you exactly what logins that use that actual email address may have been compromised. And it was pretty cool because I got a chance to find out a couple of accounts that actually were compromised in the past. And definitely if you've identified that you've been compromised, you definitely must change that password immediately. So some additional tips. Create a passphrase that is easy to remember for you, but not for others. Create a passphrase that you don't have to write down, right? But if you have to write it down somewhere. Create a passphrase that should be at least 2 to 3 words and at least 12 characters or more in length. But again, the bare minimum, 8 characters. Okay, and create a passphrase using random words mixed up with uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, special characters, including spaces between the words. Right, even using that line. Right now I can't. It's like a dash, but underscore. That's it. Use the underscore symbol somewhere within if you have to. So some additional tips: create a passphrase and use password meter to help you validate the strength of your passphrase. Be creative. Here are a couple of other examples. Here, try to make them funny. Busload of pineapple farts. Crayon sandwiches for Joe. Hairy toddlers run backwards. Okay, don't use these as your passphrases, but again, make them funny, but again, make them something that you'll remember, and of course, write them down if you have to. Let's go visit this password meter. Let's click on password meter. So here's the password meter. Type in the password. I'm going to type in password. Oops. Let's type in password, and I use uppercase P right now. It's got a 26% score. Its complexity is weak, and it's telling me things that I don't have. It just says that the number of characters seems fine because I've got 8 characters. The uppercase letter, I incorporated 1 uppercase letter, a bunch of lowercase letters, but I've not incorporated any numbers, any symbols, any numbers in the middle or symbols, right? So again, this is a great site to kind of see, am I following along in terms of the rules for my password creation. So common mistakes making passwords and passphrases. Do not use names, including your username, names of family members or pets. Do not use personal details such as your birth date, your address, or your hometown. Do not use number sequences like 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So tiger, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just because you put some numbers doesn't make it any more or any less hackable. Okay, do not use common and obvious words or expressions such as secret or password or QWERTY, let me in, I love you, my password is password. Like, even incorporating all this, my password is not secure. Don't use common character substitutions such as the A here for password, or even the dollar symbols for the S's of password, or the number 0 in it. It doesn't make it any any more secure. And do not use same passwords or passphrases for personal and work. Try not to use the same password for every single account with that same email address, because if that one email address gets hacked in one account, odds are if you're using that same password in another site with that same email address, it's going to be easy to log into every one of your accounts if they're all the exact same. Other things to want to incorporate is utilizing a 2-form factor. So enabling a two-form factor authentication, a 2FA. So a 2FA is an extra layer of security used to make sure that people trying to gain access to an online account are who they say they actually are. So first, you're going to be logging in with your typical username and password. But instead, immediately gaining access to whatever account you're trying to log in, it will require you to provide some more information. So some of that extra bit of information could end up being in the form of sending, let's say, you a text message to your phone with special digits that you will enter after you logged in. So this allows, if someone was to try to log into your account, they might know your login information and password. But if they don't have your phone, they're not going to get that text message. Other features, something that I have here, it resembles very much a USB key. Okay, it's called a youve key. And what it does is it's got an NFC chip inside, and so what it does is on my phone, if I ever need to enable this two-form factor, I just kind of hold my device right next to the youve key, and it will act as its two-form factor. But on a laptop or a desktop, I just plug this into the USB port of my computer or my laptop, and just press the little button. There's a little button here, so I press that. That will act as my two-form factor authentication, and this allows me just some peace of mind that, in fact, if someone was to try to log in, they're not going to be able to log in if they don't have this. And again, this is useless because there is no information in here for them to know that it is in fact mine. Okay, so even if you have this, you still need my passwords and my login information in order for that to happen. I hope you liked this video. If you did, do not be shy to hit that thumbs up button. And while you're clicking the thumbs up, click on that subscribe to stay tuned to my new videos. Thanks for watching.